Super Mario is way harder than I remember. Motherfucker. Sorry, don't swear. It's children. Children are gonna be you when they grow up.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks. Nice to be here.
All right, can you hear me nice and clearly?
Yeah, sounds like Danny Harold.
Right on, man. Let me be the first to say welcome to Obscurity Podcast. My name is Danny Harold, and today with me I have an esteemed guest. I have a chef, an entrepreneur, a multitasking genius, and somebody who's just been a longtime friend of mine, Chef Matt Paille of Epicurean Escape. Welcome to you, Matt.
Thanks. Very well said.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, man. I know that you wear many hats, man, and we've talked about this at length pretty recently. We've had a chance to kind of connect and get to know each other a little bit better regarding like your business and what it is that your hopes are for Epicurean Escape. Do me a favor and just tell me and tell the people what Epicurean Escape is to you, what it is that name means, and what it is that company is really in business for.
Good. I started Epicurean Escape while I was still working at the Ritz-Carlton. And during that time we were doing like an Epicurean experience. So essentially we were trying to stimulate and accentuate and be conscious of every sense a guest could experience when in our hotel. So what did this room smell like? What did the bathroom smell like? What did the bar smell like? What did the restaurant smell like? Mm-hmm. So we would tailor smells and we would like make sure that we could control that and create an experience there. Wow. What did everything look like? What did everything sound like? What did the music look like? What was the vibe? Essentially setting like a great vibe. So through that's kind of where I was inspired to start Epicurean Escape, where let's take that to a personal level in someone's home or someone's wedding venue or wherever we're cooking for them, and create an experience that we can really be conscious of every sense. We can like take an Epicurean escape, meaning we can take them to a new place, basically. They can be sitting in their living room but feel like they're someone else with new smells, sounds, tastes, etc. So
I love that. Every part of that, it is the little things that really add up and that matter, right? It's all of the little details that are essentially going to make the biggest and best experience and make something truly unique, right? That's kind of what I'm hearing from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just really creating an experience that's that's special and unique and memorable. So, and a lot of people around here are renting really nice vacation homes, and they're paying, $1,000+ a night often, and it's like let us bring the restaurant to you. You want to sit here and enjoy that space. And so I think that's special for some people. It's definitely a certain type of clientele, and I really enjoy doing those smaller dinners. It's hard as I get, as we get bigger, and it's hard for me to be everywhere at once, and but those are really nice, and I get to really focus in on making plated dinners for 10 to 20 people are nice, are fun. We did a nice one last weekend for 35 people, and it was just all kind of like it was an Asian dinner, basically, just like my interpretation, classic Asian dishes with my flair. Japanese.
Tell me about it. What kind of dishes? What kind of food, if you don't mind me asking?
So like the first course we did beef tataki. So we take a whole filet mignon. We
sorry for rippling.
We sear it on a cast iron skillet, really hard, so it's like black. Like sear it so it's rare in the middle, completely raw in the middle, but like completely black and dark. And then as soon as it comes off the sear, we plunge it in a marinade of like soy, mirin, ginger, garlic, sesame oil, I don't know, some other shit. And then we dump it in there, and then that basically sucks up the flavor. Once it's cool, we slice it paper thin, and we rolled up like little pickled vegetables into there. And so that was like the first course. So it was like a one bite. So it was like we painted, a thick sweet soy sauce on the glass with pink peppercorns, sesame seeds. I don't know, yeah. And then we had some really cool lion's mane mushrooms.
I saw those photos.
Which are beautiful. And
they
so
were
the lion's mane
beautiful,
themselves came from the farmer's market, Sonoma County. There's people growing them, and they're great for your brain. I like using them. They look really cool.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You might know the nomenclature a little bit better than me. Is it lysemic acid? Lysemia? Is that what kind of the mushroom aspect where it's brain food essentially, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that idea though. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of mushrooms. Anything mushrooms, honestly.
Yeah, I think there's a special world in the mushroom realm that we haven't given a lot of credit to. Some people know about it, and science is, not fully following all the magic and the. I think mushrooms could change the world and save the world. Honestly,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think I'm following what you're saying as well too when it comes to like Western medicine, really following what it is that mushrooms are capable of, and I think Eastern medicine has tapped a little bit more into that. And
I mean, there's mushrooms that eat oil, that could eat petroleum. There's mushrooms that that essentially could like reverse a lot of the bullshit we're doing to the planet, and like there's. Obviously hallucinogenic mushrooms that let you tap into another part of your brain that a lot of people in tech and people are finally realizing, maybe just for depression or for a little more creativity, it's a tool that, if not abused, it's a beautiful, thing that probably should be explored a little more.
You're not wrong. I'm fully in agreement with you, actually. And a name that comes to mind almost immediately when it comes to mushrooms or anything fungi is Paul Stamets. And if anybody gets a chance to just learn from Paul, I highly encourage it. But another name that comes to mind is another buddy of ours named Jeff Ganila. Jeff and I think it was his dad had started the foraging business some time ago, and man, oh man, I was seeing what it is that they were cultivating, and I was just so flabbergasted. I mean, Sonoma County is an absolute hotbed of amazing agriculture. So it's not a huge surprise that we would have the conditions to facilitate stuff like that. But it's also pretty wonderful, when you find out that just an old buddy is, coming with huge barrels, huge cardboard boxes filled with these mushrooms and providing them to great chefs in the area. I thought that was so great.
Yeah, I've been to his house where he just forages, by the ocean or whatever, wherever he goes, and just gets like his driveway is completely stacked like 6 feet high with like enough mushrooms to send, and I think he sends them across the country and everything. Like
that's sick. Yeah, and he just had a kid too. I'm excited for him and his wife, and just they seem like such a great family now. He seems really happy. Yeah, man, thanks so much for going into that. That dish sounds incredible, by the way. After
it was fun.
I mean, God, yes. Getting that nice char and then soaking it in the marinade, what a wonderful concept that is to just have it absorb all those flavors. Food for me, this is one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on. Food for me is like my erotica. It's like you're talking filthy to me right now.
It was great.
So I'm all ears.
It was like a recipe that I have an old Japanese cookbook from I got when I was a kid. And yesterday I was cleaning out my storage unit and I found the book. I was so excited, and my sous chef's like, dude, we need to get rid of all this shit. Like, we have so much shit. And I'm like, I've got probably 30 crates of like big fucking boxes of books. And I'm just like, I like having my cookbook library. I like being able to be like, okay, like, let's find Eastern Russian client. They want an Eastern Russian menu. All right. Like, that's not shit you can Google.
No, definitely
these are
not.
Like cool old school books that are like, I don't know, and it might take a little research and a little time, but it's nice just having that there. And yes, it's a little bit of hoarding mentality, but I really like having my library when I want to.
At least it's not just fucking newspapers and National Geographics and shit. Like you're putting these things to good use. It's more like an index, like a Rolodex for you. And
but I've been to a lot of like chefs' houses, and I won't name any names, but celebrity chefs who everybody knows of, and we go to their house and there's like Bon Appetit magazines like stacked to the ceiling, like in their living room, like everywhere. And it's like, oh my god, what the hell, gourmet Bon Appetit magazines? And it's like, okay, it looks like hoarder mentality, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of good content in some of that stuff that I don't know. It's it's just inspirational. It's not,
No, I get the inspiration aspect of it. You need that motivation, that inspiration, and that trigger for creativity as well. That's why I'm such a fan of having you here as well too. Is that you're always trying to create something new. You're always trying to be innovative, and you do great work here in Sonoma County and abroad. Speaking of that, and if you don't mind me asking, I know that we've talked about this a bit, but in Sonoma County, people here that are local know kind of what's been happening with fires, and people know kind of what's been happening with, the devastation of housing and nature in general. I wanted you to speak to just a little bit what was happening in 2017. We had a brief conversation about what it meant to kind of give back to your community. And I learned a little bit more about you, not only from you, but secondhand about what it is that you were doing for our community, what it is that you were doing for our firefighters and first responders. Would you mind telling us a little bit about where you were at and what you were doing in 2017?
Yeah. So, I mean, I would rewind even a little further, maybe to, I don't remember, probably the one that really hit home first for me fire-wise was, I think it was the Valley Fire, which is in Lake County. And, I mean, I think subsequently, I don't want to say I'm getting numb to the situation, but I feel like a lot of us are getting a little bit, like, this year feels like a little bit of a reprieve. Yes, it's not October yet. That's when we have most of our fires, so just wait. Exciting. But, yeah, so, like, I don't know. I remember, I think it was 14 or 15. It was Valley Fire. I was doing a wedding. I see smoke over the hill. I'm like, shit, I don't know. It hits home. You see a fire anywhere near your place, and for me, I'm like, I want to do something about it, or our neighbors are getting burned, or, protect you and yours.
Right.
So that kind of hit home. I could get into, that's a whole detailed thing. I drove up there that day, or that following day, with a bunch of water, and I had to sneak through the back lines, and anyway, so that was a whole thing.
I notice you're taking these kind of deep gasping breaths. I won't lie, it's something that I feel the exact same way about, and I'm sure our listeners have that kind of that reactionary feeling where it's like, man, it's tough going down this rabbit hole, but I want to give some of our listeners some reassurance that there's a light at the end of this tunnel in this story as well.
Mm-hmm. So basically, every fire I have a story. I could talk about an hour about each fire. So I won't get into that, but what you asked about the most recent Tubbs fire, right? Was so there.
Sure, minus the ones that were in like 19 and 20 for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 17. If I remember correctly, and I mean, it was the Tubbs fire. That was kind of the main one, and I hate to discredit how devastating the other ones were, but that was the one that hit so close to Santa Rosa that ended up kind of coming over the hill.
Tubbs, and then
Bennett Valley.
Okay, so Tubbs, we did a bunch of shit.
Oakmont, yeah.
Tubbs. Actually, the one I'm thinking about was the St. Helena one.
Got it.
That was the one I think.
That was the one we could see like from this cliffside right here,
right.
Just over here. Yeah.
Yeah, Tubbs was also crazy. Tubbs, I was up at a house getting ready to do a walkthrough for a big party, and driving through Fountain Grove again feels like just eerie because it's like all new. And I drove up there at 4 a.m. that day, and there was like fucking 60-foot wall of flames, and it looks like the Devil's Gate, and you're just like 4 a.m. Went to bed at 11, saw the fire in Napa, felt crazy wind, went to bed, and you're just like, oh my god. And you woke up. We woke up at 4 a.m. to like craziness. Everyone's freaking out. News channels are, everything on TV is all about the fires nationally. We're in our hometown, and yeah, driving up there was crazy.
It was.
My buddy his family owns a grocery store chain, so we were checking on that. Anyway, yeah, so the fire we were talking about was, I don't know the name of that fire, whatever.
Well, yeah, the area that I was kind of wanting to discuss was what it is that you were attempting to do and kind of the roadblocks you were finding yourself facing. Right. But once you realized once everybody who was with you realized the good that you were doing, they kind of like let the floodgates go with what it is you were capable of. Do you remember that?
Yeah. So, I mean, that was definitely a monumental change for me as well, and who I am and what I do, and what learning about myself a lot was like, we give so much, and at some point you got to give yourself love too. And that's what I learned from that situation. So, PG&E had been shutting power off everywhere. We had gone and bought generator after generator, borrowed generator. You know, my home luckily didn't have lost power, but my restaurant did. Mm-hmm. So we had freezers, like, you know, thousands of pounds of food, like essentially about to, you know, we needed to get it on generators. So we got generators, kept everything frozen. It was good, but I don't know how long we were going to have to do that. So I went to the Red Cross and I'm like, hey, I have all this food. Can I make some food? You know, I went to the food banks and all the places where all these refugees were going. I'm like, dude, there's like celebrity chefs cooking for all these people. Like, they're good. I'm like, what else can we do? I'm like, I have all this food. They don't really need, like, you know, the year before I was with Guy Fieri. He's like, what do you need? He's like, we're making food for 1,000 people. We're good. He's like, I could really use dessert. We made dessert. So cool. So like everyone got a dessert. It was nice. It's just like a little, you know, happy thing at the end of your day.
Man,
it's like nice to get
have
dessert. So,
I mean, yeah, dessert shouldn't be discounted as well too.
So it's
nice. It's important for the soul, man.
We did a different dessert every day, whatever.
That's
but
really
then
nice.
So this last year, we're talking about whatever year it was. I met this guy. I'm like, hey, he was the head of the Red Cross team there. I'm like, he's like, well, the firemen need food. They need coffee. I'm like, great. I can make, like, he's like, we need something we can eat in one hand so they can keep working. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, how about burritos? He's like, yeah. He's like, make me 300 burritos every night. I'm like, okay, I got you. So I got a team together. All the restaurants were closed because there wasn't a lot of power.
Right, of course, I remember.
So I got a bunch of restaurant workers together at my kitchen. We had like candlelight and like headlamps, and because we had limited power, we just had the freezers running and the restaurant was running on
Guerrilla Kitchen, man. Guerrilla Kitchen.
So yeah, flashlights and candles, and we made 300 burritos every day. We made, like, you know, I don't know, 20 gallons of coffee and 10 gallons of hot chocolate, and what else? So that was cool. So we did that first night. I'm like, dude, can I go out and hand these out with you? Like, I'm fine. Like, I can handle myself. I know how to get around. You know, I'm not stupid. I can.
Right. What did he say to you?
He's like, no. He's like, hell no. He's like, we don't allow civilians.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And I'm like, you sure? I'm like, dude, I'm sure I can be a big help.
Which I'm sure wasn't super unexpected right off the bat. You know, and your heart was in a
he's
good
like,
place,
no.
yeah.
He's like, hell no. He's like, but I appreciate that. He's like, all right. He's like, I'll be by at 7 to pick these up, and I'm gonna head out and drop this shit off. I'm like, okay. So he comes by the kitchen. We talk a little more. He's got a big monster truck. Goes out into the woods. Next day, he's like, do you want to come? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you want to go out? So
awesome.
For the rest of the week, we were going out from like 7:30, 8 p.m. till like 7 a.m. every day, pulling over any, like, there was Army guys and National Guard, and we'd see cops driving, and we'd pull them over and be like, hey, you want a burrito and coffee? Sometimes we'd like be near a fire and there'd be like 10 cops, coming by, and we'd start a whole like community where all these cops and firemen would just kind of stop by our little camp and like come get food and coffee, and they'd be like strategizing and talking, and it was pretty cool. I gotta go, Harbin Hot Springs is a place that I hold close to my heart, and I gotta go be like, okay, let's go check on Harbin. Like, let's not let that fucking place burn again. Like, that can't happen. They just lost it. It's been 3 to 5 years of rebuilding, and let's make sure. So we got to go up there. We had a drone with us, so we could go up to like these little fire camps that are up in the hills with nobody there. They're just kind of sitting in the dark. Bring them hot coffee. Bring them a burrito. It's like a light in their day. Like,
huge.
Amazing. They're super stoked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super great.
I'm sure that they were very appreciative of that.
And then we had a drone where we saw fires on the way up, and we're like, hey, like, there's a fire. We'd fly the drone over to the fire. They'd be like, okay, cool. They'd strategize how they're going to handle it. It was like, actually felt like we were doing something. It was just really cool.
That's a pretty big redeeming feature, though, and story as to what was happening during that time, because a lot of people only got to see the negative, right? Mm-hmm. They only got to kind of see what was the devastating effects that the fire were happening to happening to our area, and essentially the fallout that was coming. Like, I was a bartender at the time, and all I was getting was people who had just lost their homes, and they were coming into the bar and they were devastated,
right?
And they wanted to cry, they wanted to talk, they didn't want to talk, they wanted to drink, and that was needed. I was on board. I was like, yeah, let's get drunk. Let's have some tears. Let's talk about what it is that we can do. Absolutely. And shout out to the Osceolos for all that they were doing during that time as well. A lot of burritos being made, and a lot of efforts being made in that regard as well. No, I love hearing this aspect though, because you really do touch on the fact that there's some humanity. There's this
you really
time.
See our community coming together. It's really amazing that
Sonoma County shouldn't be undercut for that and for the efforts of the people that were out there actually making a difference, like you, if you don't mind me saying so.
I think it's human nature, and I think it's yes, Sonoma County is a beautiful community, but I think it's human nature. When we see our fellow man getting hurt and in danger, we help out, and that's a really beautiful thing to see. I mean, you could cut someone off on the freeway that whole month, and everyone would be like, okay, it's okay,
right?
And it's like this sense of generosity and kind of compassion that is in the air. You could feel it.
Sure, all the pessimism inside me wants to go down the rabbit hole of where the fuck is that mentality now, right?
Yeah,
but you're not wrong. It still exists. I've had this conversation with people a few times lately, a lot lately actually, but it has to do with if people are inherently good, or if people inherently have selfish instincts. And I remember I discussed this with the ultimate pessimist of all time, and that's the biggest cynic of all time as well, and that's my mom. And I remember I brought it up to her, and she was like, I think people are inherently good. And I remember I chuckled out loud, and I was like, what? You? I was like, you're the biggest cynic I've ever known in my life, And she was like, no, well, I know that, people's hearts are in a good place. People do want to do good. And so she was like, you don't? And the first thing that kind of came to my mind is I was like, well, think about a cop, all right? Think about what they see on a daily basis.
Do they think people are inherently good?
Do they think people are inherently good? And I was like, think about a social worker, seeing neglect of animals and kids. Do you think that they think that people are inherently good? And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, it's all perspective. It's all what we see on a daily basis. So it comes down to us surrounding ourselves with the things that will encourage a positive effect.
I think people are inherently greedy. People are inherently self-pleasing, right?
Sure.
But after that, I do think they're inherently good. I think given the choice, if I got all my needs met, I would like to fill your needs as well.
I like that.
I do feel like human nature is that way, and I'm, I don't know.
It speaks to what kind of a guy you are, though. Not just your actions, not just the, the history of what it is that you've done, but the attitude that you carry with you. The fact is that you do want to help. You do care about your fellow man. You have empathy. That's what it comes down to. And it's something that I think the world could just use so much more of. I think that it's still there. I just think that people don't see it as often. And that's why I'm such a big fan of like John Krasinski doing Only Good News. Is that what it was called? No Bad News or whatever. He was it was in his living room. It was kind of a setup like this, and a little whiteboard drawn by his kids behind him that was just Only Good News. Right. And it was because people were only getting this terrible... I even saw a quote the other day. It really made me laugh. It was turning off the news and watching a murder documentary to calm down. It's I'm going to turn off the news and I'm going to put on something entertaining like that, but it's all about murder, but it's actually tuning that down for you. And it made me laugh, but there's an air of truth to it, right?
Yeah, I have a CFO now for my catering company. And I got into we I don't know, she needed a place to stay, and she stayed in my spare room, and we watched a movie, and she doesn't want to watch anything not happy, and I'm just really trying to I really like to figure people out, and I'm trying to figure out the psychology, and it got to her, but I'm just okay, what is it about certain personalities where I like to watch everything. I'm entertained. It was something about 9/11. It was a dramatized, I forget the name of the movie, some new movie. It was with Woody Harrelson and whatever.
Oh, interesting. I haven't heard of that.
It's good, but she's like, I thought it was a comedy, and she likes comedies, so I was like, okay, we'll watch a comedy. But then, like, this whole thing was like
Woody Harrelson. That's a good
triggering
assumption.
for her.
Oh no,
because she didn't want to watch anything negative, and I'm like, okay, like, what about a personality, or what? I'm just like, and that was an interesting thing for me, and it's still interesting for me, like. What about certain people don't want to see the bad? Like, I recognize the bad. I want to see the bad, and I want to fix the bad.
You also want to learn too.
And
you want to feel it. You want to learn it. You want to be not only educated in your brain, but you want to be emotionally educated as well. And
perhaps that's a thing. But also, like, it's interesting. I don't know. Watching some fucking gory, like, war movie that may or may not even be a real thing is like. I don't know why. It's entertaining.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
See the bad guy get his head chopped off. I don't know.
Oh, pardon me. You know what? That's comes down to kind of like desensitized, nature as well. Because I love that. I don't mind it at all. Like the whole story build up too, right?
Yeah.
And then the climax, and then the bad guy dies, and everybody goes, "Man, I hope that guy dies." You don't hope anybody dies in real life. You never really say that about people.
Sometimes you do.
Well, sometimes, yeah. I mean,
but mostly not.
Yeah, exactly. You think of terrorists and stuff like that. You're like, yeah, I hope that guy dies. But like in your everyday life, like you're walking around, somebody cuts you off in traffic. You're not like, I hope that guy dies in a fiery car crash. Like the bad guy in a movie, you might hope for that. But in reality, and on the road, you're just like, man, I don't want to see anybody die. Right. It's terrible.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I was just trying to figure out that psychology, and I think that.
Well, I mean, I know even people who like when they see like a scary movie preview, they're like, "Fuck that," and they change the channel, or they'll like mute the TV. Right? Like my sister-in-law comes to mind. Like she's like we tried to play a movie out back.
Is that a childhood trigger thing?
Yeah, it might be.
It's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know, but I am inherently curious, and I want to understand that, but. That can also be triggering for people. So I don't want to, I got to learn not to push that, but it's like, psychology is interesting and why certain people are triggered, certain people feel a certain way. And like, I want to like dig under there and like understand why and how just to understand what makes people tick. Like that's fascinates me, but.
You said it yourself a little bit earlier too. You're a bit of a fixer, right? Like you go like, all right, well, let's get to the root of the problem. Let's make it better. Let's make it happy. Let's do something different to change, to be a catalyst if there's anything that we can do. And
perhaps that's what it is. So so that's
you're a helper. You're a helper.
That's kind of what we were talking about with the fire. Basically, that whole week was crazy. I'm like going to bed at 7 a.m., waking up at 8 a.m., like high on adrenaline, like felt like I was on drugs. Like, people would come to my house because I still had power, so we would come there, watch the news, hang out, cook dinner, and then go out and do this shit.
It's a long time.
So anyway, so it's like a week of like this kind of craziness. And then I basically burn out, and I'm just like, okay, the fires are out. I'm just like, what did I do? Like, I'm like, completely like took all the adrenal out of my body and like was just wiped. So, and finally the fires were out. I was able to go to Tahoe. I have family there and got clear air. And, I got a little bit of survivor's guilt where I'm like, okay, I can do this and everyone else can't. It's like,
I felt that
kind of depressing where you just like, shit, that's kind of sucks. But like, it's like, I can only breathe this fucking smoke for so long. And then
shouldn't feel guilty about that, but I know exactly the guilt that you were feeling. Like,
and you're like, okay,
very well.
I can escape.
You have to get out of it.
Lucky me. Yeah. Great. And then, but also needed to rebuild that. And basically that damage that I did through like adrenal fatigue is like probably years of damage that like I have a naturopath I see. He's like, you need to go sit on a beach for like a month with no phone and do nothing. Like don't go riding mopeds, don't go running motorcycles, don't go at anything, nothing exciting. Right. He's like, in order to heal, like you need to do that. I'm like, that sounds great. It's not very practical. Like
it doesn't sound too unreasonable, but it's one of those things where you
Mexico
crave it,
or a tropical island, I'm gonna want to go. Yeah, I'm an adrenal junkie, but adrenaline. But also, I think in general, that's just hard to do for most people.
It is kind of sitting still in general,
But through that, I learned yoga, I learned meditation, I had a great teacher.
Go into that if you don't mind, actually, too. I'm glad that you actually were able to bring that up.
So that's kind of where I was going with this whole story.
Yeah.
Was basically, this whole thing of give taught me that, like, you can only give so much, and if you don't take care of yourself and give back to yourself and learn about self-love and, you know, really trying to nurture yourself, then you're really no use to the world. So that was a huge epiphany and big life-changing thing for me, where it's like, okay, like, yeah, it's real. Like, you can, like, try your hardest for, like, so long, but you're not effective if you're not, you know, running on adrenaline. Adrenaline's an amazing drug, and that was able to help me push through and be able to continue to, like, get that week over with. But had that gone 2-3 weeks, like, I would have probably just been, like, trying and just, like, a limp, you know, soldier trying to, like, carry on aimlessly. So, yeah. So anyway, so I had been knowing this yoga teacher in my shopping center for a while. She's this older lady, probably in her 70s, amazing, but I hadn't really, like, had a regular practice with her.
Mm-hmm.
A girl I was dating at the time was kind of into yoga, and so I was like, I'm gonna go start trying to go and see Claire more often. So Claire's like 70s. She's like tough, like, yoga lady. She'll, like, grab me by the butt and just, like, put me in position. Like, here you go. You know, she's, I think,
sounds rad.
And we had a good, like, really good relationship. She was a direct descendant of a Iyengar, who's, like, basically one of the yoga masters of our time. So he's a Iyengar, is, like, kind of one of the founders of Hatha Yoga, or a big proponent of Hatha Yoga, which is a certain style. So Claire is his direct student. So having a teacher with that lineage is very rare nowadays and really amazing. So,
I hate to get you off track. Hatha Yoga has what kind of difference is that between either standard yoga that you might get in, like, a yoga studio, or Bikram in, like, the hot room, or,
so, like, Hatha's about slower movements and, like, making sure you're, like, the teacher's there. A good teacher can really get you in a position and really, I think it's a good foundation yoga because it's getting you in that position. You're holding positions longer.
Oh, I see.
And you're perfecting every movement. So you're, like, hands out, and you're like, okay, turn your hand, like, 5 degrees, and then you're in the perfect position.
Right.
Turn your foot 2 degrees, and then you're in the perfect position. So rather where, like, a yoga flow would be more like you're, like, going from position to position to position,
which is the one I'm way more used to as well.
This one you're, like, sitting down, and you're getting your muscles of, like, staying in position, and I feel like that's, you know, that creates good muscle building as well, like trying to hold a plank or trying to hold,
like, focus of energy as well too, it sounds like.
And really learning how those positions are supposed to feel, and when the teacher comes and positions you and moves you there, and you're like, okay, now it feels right, rather than just, like, the teacher sitting from afar. Claire was very, you know, touchy-feely, which is great. And, like, since Corona started, she was still that way, but had to be sensitive to it. Now she's doing
more aware, right?
You know, online, and I've lost, you know, I've talked to her on the phone here and there now, but, you know, I'm not doing the whole online yoga thing. For me is challenging. I'm not really into it.
I get that. Yeah, I've done, like, the Apple Fitness Plus, and I've done some yoga there, and honestly, it's pretty badass. It works pretty well. The way that you're describing being with somebody, though, and having them, like, reorient you and being like, now you're in the right position, that sounds really nice. That sounds like, and also, I mean, I'm like an affectionate guy, but I'm also, like, a hugger, and, like, I love shaking hands and just, you know, touching, right? It's, you know, not even in a weird way, just, like, I like shaking hands or giving people a pat on the back or a hug, whatever.
Right.
The fact that somebody's willing to come over there and kind of reorient you, I'm about that. I'm like, yeah, cool, like, do this right. And I mean, people crave, you know, human attention and being able to be touched. Yeah, that's so important. And yeah, no, that sounds like a pretty amazing thing. But you were saying, as you were going into it, kind of, what was your journey when, as soon as you kind of started taking that a little bit more seriously and being a little bit more focused on your body and wellness? What ended up happening?
So that was good. So I started working with Claire. She was great. I got inspired to kind of, like, start following that path. Decided I wanted to go sit on a rock for a month. I'm like, okay, like, my goal next January is to go sit on a rock for a month. That's what I want to do. Like, I want to go like think about life, and like that's all I could say. I was like, I'm gonna go find a rock to sit on somewhere.
You did too,
somewhere
didn't
else.
you? Where'd you end up going?
So
Did you go to
then-
Indonesia?
I ended up going to Nepal.
We went to Nepal. That's right. Yeah.
So I booked a trip, found a really cool, really cool teacher. I had also been studying Nichiren Buddhism with a friend who does. A bunch of my friends are like musicians and rappers and acoustic guitarists, and they're part of this Nichiren Buddhism, and that's Nam-myoho Renge Ko, which is, you've probably heard of Nam-myoho Renge Ko. It's like a chant that people say, and that essentially means, I'm probably translating it wrong, but essentially Nam-myoho Renge Ko means manifestation through sound. So it's kind of, I think it attracts musicians, and people in that realm, but also other people. So
Makes sense.
you go Nam-myoho Renge Ko, Nam-myoho Renge Ko, Nam-myoho Renge Ko, and so you're kind of like chanting. You're getting air through your lungs. You're manifesting. While doing that, you may say, like, I gotta quit coffee. It's bad for me. It's giving. So, like, maybe, or I don't know. That's a bad example, but essentially, like, you're manifesting something you want in your life.
There you go. Yeah, you're
while
creating
chanting.
a mantra, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, that is the mantra. Nam-myoho Renge Ko is the mantra, but
Got it.
every time you may.
It's like an intention. It's
You're setting an intention.
An
yeah.
intention.
So that's cool. So I went to Nepal, booked this retreat. This guy's Shiva, which is whatever. There's Shiva is a god.
Shiva's a god. I thought. Yeah.
So what's the religion? Anyway, it's one of the religions in India and Nepal.
Don't feel bad. There's a
my
lot,
brain's
and you've
a
also learned and experienced a lot. Don't feel
Yeah,
bad.
it's hard for me to access all the great things in this brain. That's the thing. But anyway, I know about it. So anyway,
I'll never forget when you were telling me you were going on that trip. I felt so bad that I couldn't go. Yeah.
So good.
Always doing it like a schmuck and sacrificing it for work, but we all got to do what we got to do.
But this place he built, this place my teacher up there built his, his home and his center on, happened to be right next to this Buddhist place. And Nichiren Buddhism is a Japanese Buddhist tree. So this is I think he calls it like one of the 8 like power centers of the world where he decided to build his home.
Oh, wow.
My guru there. And so I'm doing this whole like yoga practice and meditation and, training with him, and across like a quarter mile on like an opposing hill, the highest point in Pokhara, which is a lakeside village in Nepal. We're like high up in the mountains. There's this Buddhist place. So me and another girl who was going to the same retreat went over there, and it turns out this is a Nichiren Buddhism like shrine, and it was like very interesting.
Wow.
Powerful. Like, and it's weird that like this Japanese Buddhist thing was in Nepal too, which is really kind of random and right where I was. So
Yeah.
kind of felt like it was meant to be. So.
Sure.
So
I'm sure there was a lot of energy coming from that area as well. Yeah, and you were kind of in the right place at the right time, I'm sure it felt like.
So it was an interesting time to learn about myself, learn about some Ayurveda, astrology, and kind of just be able to slow down. And I was still have my catering team doing things, and I'm like trying to run catering gigs. It's January, so it's slow, but we still have a few things coming up from afar. And I've got a great team and a great sous chef and office team, and so they're able to still do things. But I still was kind of quarterbacking a little bit from my mountain window in Nepal, as I often have to do.
Damn, man.
But,
that's ambitious, man.
So yeah, so that I just was saying, like, a life lesson I think for everyone is just kind of learning to take care of yourself and find that balance, and I think we're all searching for that balance.
Yeah, ever searching actually, and it's I'm kind of learning more now than ever that it's not an instantaneous thing. It's more like changing your behaviors, changing your practice, your health, your wellness, being more conscious of many things, whether it be what you're ingesting, which of course, you being a chef, I know that that's paramount to what it is that you do, but also what it is that you are doing in your everyday life. If you're exercising, if you're what it is what kind of energy you're surrounding yourself with, the people that you're around, it's an ever changing thing that you need to like build on and give yourself some love, that self-love aspect you were talking about. And man, oh man, this last month has been paramount for me in that and doing a lot of life changes. That's for sure.
And I think the world would be a better place if there's so much is screwed up with our society and, world society, with like, if we could actually be aware of that, and maybe we are aware of that, but actually put some energy into that. There's so many monumental changes in the planet that need to happen that, if we focus a little more energy on like taking care of one another, and, then I think rather than just try to chase the dollar, it's hard. The dollar is there and we want to chase the carrot and run after it, but it's like, it takes a certain amount of awakening to realize like that's not the most important. Like, yes, there's trillions of dollars underground in the fucking oil fields. Great. Like, let's get it all. Once we get it all, then what? Then we have a screwed up planet we can't use. So is that like worth any amount of money? Like any amount of money? Like if you could have every single dollar from every single person in the world, like, and then your planet's fucked, like what's the point? Like that's not rational. Totally. That doesn't seem like an intelligent species.
Like, no, I heard this recently. It was an interview that somebody was having when, I think it was on Tom Segura's show, and they were talking about somebody who tells jokes for a living blowing up, right? And he was like, I'm so grateful when somebody who tells jokes makes money. And he's like, yeah, well, you surround yourself by a different type of people at a certain point where they're all really rich, and you're like, what do you do? And they're like, oh, I punched numbers into a computer for the last 30 years and stood in front of a computer screen with a bunch of numbers on it, and I'm 4 times divorced, and yeah, now I'm a multimillionaire. And he's like, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I've been talking about my beehole for the last 20 years. Yeah. And he's like, there's a certain aspect of you go, well, there's the journey and then there's the destination, right? And that's something we've heard for many years, but it takes real implementation and real practice before you realize that it isn't the destination that matters at the end of the day.
I know.
Because we're all going to die. None of us are getting out of this alive. It comes down to if you were caring, empathetic, and happy throughout your life, right? Are you going to look back and go, man, I enjoyed that. These are great memories. Or are you going to look back and be like, man, I trampled over thousands of people and destroyed their lives and livelihood and fired all these people and laid off all these people just so my stock could go up 0.25%. Like, what a fucking nightmare to wake up to 30 years from now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, yeah, and it could all end tomorrow. Any second, totally. And so, yes, I think, I was talking with someone about the kind of the philosophy of living in the now yesterday for a while, but it's like, you do want to live in the now, but you still have to plan for the future, and you still have to learn from your past, but there's definitely a little bit of difficulty that needs to happen in order for us to have a successful future, but it is important to take a deep breath every once in a while. And with catering this year, we've really got super busy since Corona's, took a break, and they released the floodgates and everyone was able to throw parties and everything. So we got super busy, and I'm like, okay, work, like nonstop. I created my own slavery shit. Like, I'm super busy, and now it's like, okay, if I can find 2 hours in the week to like go to a spa or go get a massage, it's like, I don't even necessarily want to do that. Right. It's more like a necessary, thing where it's like, if I want my body to keep functioning, I need to find that pocket of time to meditate or to like sit in a hot tub and to like get a massage, where like, it's almost like a professional athlete where you're just like, okay, like you need to like keep everything highly tuned so you can go back out there. Otherwise,
we went
you'll crumble.
You will. Oh, your body will 100% work against you. I constantly refer to my body as such an unreliable vessel, but it's because of 100% my fault of abuse over the years. Alex and I actually got to go to Me Spa the other day. That was a nice treat because we haven't done that in years. Done any massages, anything like that. She'd gotten me a massage for Valentine's Day, and it took until now, September, to do it.
Yeah.
Just that's how, your life takes over. You're busy. Yeah. And I got a deep tissue massage.
Oh, great.
and this dude's fingers were made of steel and destroyed me in all perfect ways.
Yeah.
And that was funny because I'm like a talker, you know, I'm like talking during it. He's talking with me, we're bullshitting. It's super fun, talking about movies and shit. And there'd be a certain point where he would get like right here, and he like would pinch right up on my shoulder, and he'd pinch and slide. And I just started like this, and he was like, "Yeah, don't worry, it hurts, but it's gonna be worth it." And I was like, "That's a good way to get somebody to shut the fuck up, man."
Yeah.
You got me, man.
Yeah, some massage is
It was great. It was great.
And I conversate with my massage therapist sometimes too.
But
But it's also a little bit uncomfortable sometimes just to be quiet and like feel like receiving that gift and receiving their gift.
yeah,
But I think a lot of massage therapists also are kind of get into a meditative spiritual state when they're in doing a massage with their music. So sometimes I feel like it's better for you and to just kind of learn to just kind of breathe and like
absolutely. I've done that too, and it feels really good.
finding that balance, and I definitely, and especially going into somebody new, I kind of almost feel like uneasy about they're working and I'm like I'm getting pleasure while you're working.
Sure.
And it's like, okay.
I get that.
So like keeping conversation going is also kind of like a tool to like get over that uncomfortableness.
You're like, tell me a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, where you don't just feel like, hey, massage me.
Yeah.
You're my slave.
You're all, but no conversation.
But they, I think a lot of times they prefer the kind of meditative. I like some of my best massage therapists who I work with are kind of like, they get into like almost a trance where they're like, they're flowing with your body. They're a lot of people are so highly in tune with like, not only your body, but your brain. And like, I mean, there's a lot of massage therapists who come back, they're taking on a lot of people's energy. You may be really stressed out. They may be picking that up. And if they don't know properly how to diffuse that energy, they could take a lot of bad energy. And there's a lot of...
Man, energy's such a real thing as well. Not just being super aware of what it is that you're doing with somebody, whether it be just a conversation or a massage or cooking or just being near somebody. Profound effects of negativity and positivity either way. Like, be aware and conscious of the way that you're interacting with human beings, right? You know, like, because you might be thick-skinned as shit. You know, I've found myself being that guy where I'm just like, God, is everybody around me super sensitive? And then I've been the guy that goes like, man, there's so much intense negativity around me that I'm like, it's permeating the skin, you know? It's devastating to your psyche and to your energies. And so, nah, man, I fucking get it, you know? Is there anybody in town or anybody around that you would recommend to anybody? Is there anybody that you've kind of like been massaged by or had any done like yoga or healing done by that you would recommend?
I mean, I have one of my friends, Mackenzie.
Must want to keep them secrets.
Yeah, I have one of my friends, Mackenzie, and she's actually in Mexico right now. She's amazing. She like, I basically go like into like I feel like I'm hallucinating sometimes.
Really?
I massage her, and she's just like.
Do me a favor, talk a little closer to the mic. Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
You feel like you're hallucinating, you said sometimes?
Yeah, like
It's
just kind of get into another state, and so she's great. I think she's in Mexico for a while. I think she's moving to Mexico, or her boyfriend's a model for Dolce & Gabbana in Mexico.
Oh, wow. Does she do this for a living, or does
she does that for a living? Yeah, she's a massage therapist for a living.
That's cool.
So she's awesome. Yeah, I don't really want to share her, and I don't know how many more clients. She's probably still looking for more clients, but
that can always change. I'll be able to add it in the comments if she hears it and changes her mind, or you ask her and she goes, "Fuck yeah, promote it. It's all good."
And then I've been going to a membership at the Best Day Spa. I think it's called the Best Day Spa. It's on Marlowe and
that's the Best Day Spa. I've been there.
And so they're cool. They're like, I spent a good amount of time in Thailand, so they're like really cool traditional Thai massage.
They are, and so Alex and I had this conversation the other day. They're the only place in town where I feel like I can get a real Thai massage. Yeah. And the last massage that I had gotten before this one at Me Spa was a few years ago, and it was there. And before that was 2015 in Thailand. And I remember in Thailand, I had the tiniest little dude come out, and he's the strongest person I've ever met to this day, but he couldn't have been more than 5 feet tall. And he put me in a fucking full Nelson and threw his legs around my thighs as he was sitting behind me, and then like wrapped his arms around my neck in a full Nelson and just wound me up like this and just started like really cracking everything in my back. And I mean, I'm 260 pounds. Alex was across getting a foot massage, and she could hear everything. And she was like, holy shit. And I'm like, oh my God, this feels amazing. And so I was hooked. I was like, God, this is the best feeling ever. I highly recommend Thai massage to anybody.
And they've got like the poles on the roof there where you can like walk on your back.
Yeah. Like, in the right way too. I had Alex try to do that on me as well too. She's 5'1", like 100 pounds dripping, soaking wet, and that was a fucking mistake because all my ribs were getting all fucked up, and I was like, man, it's not like the movies, man.
You need to walk along each side of the spine, and you
need to
have that dexterity in your toes to really like be able to.
You need to have somebody who knows what they're doing it. Yeah, don't have tiny people, like if you have kids, don't have them like walk on your back, like it's a fucking mistake.
Jump on your back. Yeah, it's a fragile place, that back.
Yeah, it is. My whole stupid unreliable vessel, like I told you, it's all fragile at this point.
I've gotten a habit of like buying all my employees new fucking Birkenstocks and shoes, and I'm just like watching them and seeing like how hard we're working, and I'm like, I can only buy so many people's shoes, but it's like you can't fucking wear sneakers in a kitchen. Like you gotta like stand on a mat and like learning like, hey, we're standing here for 10 hours plus sometimes, like stand proper, have good posture, have good shoes, stand on a, anti-fatigue mat, and like,
even as you're saying it, I realize like how bad my posture is sometimes.
But it's just like that, being able to put your body, and that's one thing yoga's kind of forced me also, is not even forced me, but by learning what your body should feel like in alignment, you're like, oh, I'm out of alignment. Just having that awareness and being like, okay, like that forces you to like sit a little better and kind of like put your body into the position where you're going to get a little more longevity out of it. And totally. For me, walking through the kitchen and watching a bunch of people working and being like, dude, like, no wonder your back hurts. No wonder you can have to take a break every like 45 minutes. Like change your posture. Fucking don't wear your Jordans in the kitchen. Like get something with a good insole,
Birkenstocks, is that what you recommend too? Is that a good idea? Like I've only seen some people wear them, and if pardon my ignorance too, they are like the sandal types with the black straps that go over the top that form to your foot.
That's Birkenstock sandals, yeah.
There's Birkenstock sandals, but there's Birkenstock
the clogs
shoes.
Are great, or there's different types of Birkenstocks. Yeah,
Got it.
Those soles are great. I do think they're really great. But the Birkenstock store here in Onion Lupa in Santa Rosa is really great. They've got,
is it really?
Everything there is basically might be a different brand. They've got Birkenstock. I've got a bunch of different shoes from them, but they're work shoes and they're not cheap. They're starting at $90 to $200.
That's what I heard. But they last.
But they last and work, they make your body feel better. So,
you get what you pay for sometimes in that regard.
And I think it's vital.
I'm not always in a position to drop $200 on shoes, but if you do it once and you do it right, then
but I think
then you don't have to do it for a long time.
The clogs I bought for them, I think, were $80.
Yeah,
and they're great. And I also just buy the insole. You can buy the Birkenstock insole and put it in a different shoe.
Oh, really?
And it's like $15, $20.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's great.
And so that gives you like it's much better than even getting like the Dr. Scholl's insole from Walmart, where you like stand on the thing and it tells you where different pressures in your body are.
I remember that. Yeah.
Like those are better than nothing. But the Birkenstock's really great. Those are good. But getting something under your feet, like these I got there. These are Australian shoes. These are called
legit. This is pretty easy. By the way, do this right here. Those are dope.
Blunders. I forget what they're called.
Nice. It's look really comfortable too.
Yeah, slip on, Blunston. Yeah, and then they got the support. Birkenstocks are like a clog, so you don't really get the ankle support. I kind of like that when I'm doing anything. Like I'm running, I'm jumping over bushes, I'm doing all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah, you're always running around. Yeah, speaking of which as well too, if you don't mind me saying so, I hate to get too off track, but I think this is actually super relevant. Speaking of wearing many hats and working really hard, don't worry. Do not worry, be happy. My mom gave me that. I love that mug. Tell me about what you're doing today, because as you were walking in, I don't know if you know that you do this, but I love that you do this because you were able to tell me a little bit about what's going on throughout your day just by like running through your head when you're walking around. You'll just be like, well, I got this going on. Oh, that's also happening a little bit later today. And I was like, wait, that's all fucking today? Like, holy shit. Just do me a favor. Tell me about what you're actually doing.
Okay, well,
with
some
the rest
of
of
it
your
I
day.
can and cannot talk about. But
Sure, no trouble.
I've got...
I understand. I
I
understand
mean,
why.
I had like
smart move.
14 phone calls right now.
No, I've been hearing it. I'm hearing it go off too. I was wondering if it was on the desk. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we're working on a bunch of other projects.
Did I hear that you have somebody signing up for a wedding? They want to do tastings today?
And then
Is
we
that
have
true?
2 couples coming. Yes.
2 couples, so 2 different
So
weddings
yeah, so
potentially.
3. We have a couple coming to do a wedding for 200. They're just, we're gonna do a tasting. We're gonna like take them through the menu, talk with them about all the things we do, and let them taste their food. Basically, earn their confidence that I know how to cook and that we're not gonna screw up their wedding.
Sure.
So then they're like, that's kind of part of our sales process for bigger events. Is people like to come taste the food and talk about it, and even if they've already decided on using us, they want to kind of taste some things. And so we have one of those at 3. It's basically like a big meal with like, I don't know, 20 different things they taste, or maybe
A lot.
between 10 and 20 things. And then we have another couple coming at 6 to do that with 2. Yeah, we're organizing, we're moving storage units.
That can't be cheap to you as well, too. It won't make you tell me the amount of money that you have to spend on doing a tasting, right? But that's like, it's a tall order when it comes to the, long and short of it, because, bridezilla's aside, it's just people wanting a special day. They want things to kind of go right, and picking at somebody to do their cooking and to feed all their, favorite people in the world. It's a daunting task, and so I'm sure there's a lot of pressure and
there's a lot of back and forth. There is a lot of like, my office
indecisiveness maybe
aren't cheap, and so like having that back and forth is like hours on the clock.
Yeah,
it definitely adds up. And so we used to always do free tastings and now we do the tasting's free if you book with us. So I think we're charging $95 a person now to come to a tasting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like a nice dinner. But at the end of the day, like that's not even, my cost, because I have 4 people working. We're doing other stuff, organizing the kitchen and stuff.
If you don't mind me saying so, this isn't kissing ass as well. I've eaten your food. I've been in 2 weddings that you've cooked for. I've just been at, which was lucky.
Who did you go? You at Riley?
I went to Riley's, and that Riley and Laura Sullivan, excuse me. And then who was the second one? I'm trying to remember now. Maybe it was just the one. But when we,
I've seen you at a bunch of events.
When I ate, there's a lot of events that have, you and Jeff too. And when I ate there, I remember going like, holy shit, this is gourmet. It's incredible. But $95 a person is not unreasonable for the amount of food that you were just mentioning, and the fact that you're able to say, cool, if you book with us, we throw that in. That's huge, man. That's a really cool way to do that.
So that's cool.
Very reasonable.
Yeah.
Because weddings big business,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
What else you got going on? So you got those tastings?
Yeah.
And then you got the other thing.
And I got the other thing.
There it is. That's a loaded day still.
Yeah.
Yeah, even doing 2 couples, by the way, as well. Like, if I go get the mail, I like stretch when I walk in the door, and I'm just like, ugh, let's watch a movie, Rip. Grab my dog, take a nap.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
Luckily, I got a good team, and
Yeah.
I'm getting better at delegating. I could always be better, but and we're always looking for good, intelligent hands to help grow the company and share the wealth with as well. So
speaking of which, if you don't mind me asking, ways that people can get in touch with you, ways that people can find out more about Epicurean Escape, and if somebody is looking for a career in service, or they want to learn more about what it is that you do, how is it that they can reach you? Go and do some selfless promotion and plugs.
We have
here.
a taco truck now, so that's cool. So we're taking care of vegans. So that's
vegan
cool.
tacos.
That's a cool Instagram.
What's the name of your tacos?
Taco Sagrado.
Taco
So that
Sagrado.
means sacred taco.
I love it, man. I've seen those photos. They look beautiful.
We're coming out with a line of clothing soon for them.
Nice.
So on
For
the front
Taco
it says
Sagrado.
taco. On the back they're making like panties that say Taco Sagrado. Sacred taco.
Sacred taco on the panties.
So that's
solid,
cool.
man.
Shirts. Our aprons are really cool. The truck's really, really designed, really awesome. my buddy Jesse Young Solomon is a rapper and a performer, and he's taking on this taco truck monster with me, and so we're doing that. So that's really cool. So that's got a cool Instagram, Taco Sagrado, phonetically. That's how you spell it and say it.
I love it.
Hopefully that's easy enough. Epicurean Escape is our other Instagram, or www.epicureanescape.com. That's not phonetic and a lot harder for people to spell, but I'm going to let you guys figure that out.
I promise I'll put all of that in there for people to be able to follow. Yeah.
For a while, I was thinking about switching the name to Epic Catering, just because, like, how many customers have I lost by, like, saying, oh, where are you guys from? Epicurean Escape? And, like, nobody can spell.
What?
Anybody, the most intelligent people, like, can't spell Epicurean. Right. And you're like, okay, like, is this a bad idea to have for, like, a business name? I don't know. So we were working with Epic for a while. We changed, and we started rebranding, and we're just like, everyone knows this is Epicurean. Like,
don't conform to the dummies. Embrace the smarties.
Yeah, I mean, who knows if I wasn't in my position if I'd know what Epicurean meant either. So you can't. They're not necessarily dummies. It's just. It's an obscure word.
I feel better knowing that I learned that word from your company, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, not at all. Maybe we're there to teach you some vocabulary.
Exactly. I learned the word inconceivable after I watched The Princess Bride. You know what I mean? Like, y'all got to learn somewhere. Yeah. Nobody expects you to know.
Right.
Matt, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming onto this show.
Thank you so much.
You're one of my favorite people to be around, and your energy is great. I just love the fact that you're taking care of yourself as well as all the people that are here in Sonoma County, and I love you, brother. And I'm just so glad that you're doing so well. And
me too, man.
Absolutely, I look forward to working with you a lot more too.
All right, that was great. Really cool. I'm liking what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Cool. Yeah, you got Ripley asleep as well too. You played with her for a little bit. She's good.
Bye.